Hi, it's Empress Rose and welcome to our collective reading. I'm going to start off with some oracle cards. Take what works, of course, and leave what doesn't. I'm in a bit of an unusual space today. I'm at a friend's house, so let's see here. Well, you'll get to see a little bit more. All right, so that was my big giant deck of Moonology and Work Your Light. So, interesting. So it looks like share your voice, come out of the cave, persecution, expression. So there might be something that you've been sitting on for a while, thinking about, contemplating. Maybe there's some reluctance to share. Maybe you've shared something in the past and it hasn't gone over very well. It hasn't been well received. There's a sense of having retreated into your own space, definitely not sharing this thing with other people. So this is inviting you to be a little more expressive, to talk a little more, to show more of who you really are, and perhaps even share something that you haven't shared before. And then it says, nothing will come of this situation, void of course moon. So I mean, the good and the bad of this card is that whatever you're worried about going to be the consequence of, taking this risk, leaving your comfort zone, whatever you think is going to be the consequence of that is probably not going to be the consequence. This may not be as big of a deal as you think it is, which is really pretty common for us to build things up in our mind, and then we go and we say something and we do something and everyone's like, oh yeah, cool, okay, moving on. So the void of course moon is both good and bad. It means that sharing something or going out of your comfort zone isn't going to be a big scary deal once you get there, but it also may not be like a big life-changing event or experience. It's just going to be, you're being asked to share something that perhaps you haven't shared recently, and get out of your comfort zone a little bit. This does seem to have to do with talking and conversations. So, and nothing will come of this situation. Don't worry about some bad karma or bad things happening or even big life-changing things happening when you share this or talk about it. It's just saying, go ahead, go for it. It's not going to be as big a deal as you think it is. So, and then boundaries, where do you need to establish better boundaries? So, obviously, we have someone here who has a lot of energy being pulled, their energy is being pulled at by multiple sources. So you're going to need to say no, typically, is what this card means. You're going to need to block other people's opinions, other people's ideas. Having good boundaries is a lot about knowing who you are, being in touch with who you are, and then allowing other people to know that. So there might be something that you need to say, like, I don't like this, I don't want to do this. This isn't working for me, or something like that. And it's probably not going to be a very big deal. So to me, these cards all together are looking like you need to speak up about something. You need to say something that's not working for you. And boundaries aren't about controlling other people. They're simply about controlling our space and being true to who we are and what we like and what we don't like. So we can't necessarily say, you can't do that, but we can say, I don't want to deal with that. That's something that I'm not okay with. So this all looks like it's something that you need to say, you need to speak up about, that is affecting you. And it's not going to be that big of a deal when you do. And then new moon in Virgo, time to give rather than take. So oddly, this feels to me as a little bit of initiative. What you bring to the situation is really important. Your attitude, your tone, what you're bringing to the situation is actually quite important. It's an unknown situation. You don't know how people are going to respond to this. You need to be mindful of your boundaries, mindful of what you want, what you don't want, and who you are. It's really just boundaries are just being true to who you are and not being afraid to say, this isn't who I am, this isn't something that I like. And they can be small, they can be larger. Oftentimes though, when we're also talking about better boundaries, we can talk about some people have giant boundaries. And in a way, actually, I can see this as being really giant boundaries. I'm not going to tell people Nobody should know my business. Nobody should know what's going on in my life. I'm going to keep that very private, and it's nobody's business but mine. But that also keeps people out. And in a way, combined with this card, it almost does look like having a good boundary is possibly keeping people out, right? Because we're meant to share something, and this is talking about a time to give rather than take. So we could be talking to someone specifically about some boundaries, about a boundary issue. It's not going to be a very big deal if we do. Or we could have really huge boundaries, and we've been keeping people out, and it's really not necessary to have that big of a boundary, to have that much of a good fences make good neighbors. So that's sort of the idea behind boundaries, of knowing where you are, what your jurisdiction is, what someone else's is, knowing where that ends and where that begins is really good and really important. But we can have like a really nice good neighbor fence, or we can have sort of the wall of China. And so it's a big, giant, wide, huge seen from space boundary, which is a little much. It's a little much. So these two cards combined are suggesting that one of the ways to read this is that you have like a really huge boundary, and you don't need to quite shut people out that way. So this establish better boundaries. So some people need to sort of have more reasonable boundaries. And other people need to have stronger boundaries, like there's no fence there, and the neighbor's dog is always in your yard, comes over to poop 4 times a day, that kind of thing. You kind of need a little bit more of a boundary. So I think you'll know where you are. I kind of have the world divided into two categories. Obviously, there's so much gray area, and there are an infinite number of categories. But we have people that need better boundaries, and people that need stronger boundaries, and people that need more permeable, human-sized boundaries where they can actually get close to people. All right, we're gonna look into these ones. So it is something that's very much about you, about what you're giving, and in a way that card opened up the interpretation of the boundaries as perhaps needing to be a little smaller. This is about you sharing and you giving. So you need to share your voice, you need to give something. And there's something about boundaries in there that may be making it difficult for you to give people everything that you can, or to even receive from people. But this is definitely about you sharing something. We have share, we have give. So maybe even respecting good boundaries there too. All right, well, I feel like I've said what I can here, cards. All right, oof. The wild ones come with sticks. So this is about naysayers. Naysayers, they can be internal, they can be external, they can be your fears, really. When we're talking about sharing your voice, expression, so we may have had like external naysayers at some point, and we may have internalized that, like, well, that's how everyone's going to respond when I put this out there. That's how people do, you know? But I think this is about some inner fears that you have. This is saying it's not that big of a deal. It's really not that big of a deal. Once you talk about it, share it, or whether it be about a boundary, or whether it just be sort of humans scaling your boundaries so that they're more, so that you can experience close relationships as well. Whether it's about that, it just seems like there's a lot of fears, insecurities. There's a drumbeat. It's repetitive. It's very repetitive thoughts in your mind that then start to feel normal. It just starts to feel like the rhythm of a background rhythm, and you're moving in sync with that without almost really realizing that you're moving in sync with your own internal thoughts and repeated thoughts. So this is just being aware of that is probably half the battle of what are some of the things you're saying to yourself, what are some of your fears, and we have this it's time to kind of conquer those fears and be more vulnerable with what you share with people. I mean, respecting boundaries. I love that the boundaries card is in here too, because it's just giving this nice sort of like, yeah, be vulnerable, but be reasonable in that vulnerability. There's a happy medium there. So, and then in the middle of the bridge, oh my gosh, I love this one too. In the middle of the bridge is meeting people halfway, the good and the bad, right? And we're talking about really strong boundaries and really porous boundaries. And sometimes we can have both, actually. We're not necessarily like always having really good boundaries or always having porous boundaries. It should depend on what situation we're in and who we're around and whether we trust them or not. But this is meeting someone halfway. This is a little bit of this, a little bit of that, the good and the bad. Perhaps even learning something. I want to say revelation. And I really think in the middle of the bridge, this is meeting something halfway, an opposing viewpoint, an opposing force, an opposing viewpoint. Maybe you disagree with somebody and you're worried if you speak up about it, but this is meeting someone halfway and you're sharing your voice, you're giving something. It's really interesting. And then I was talking about the good boundaries, good neighbors, good fences make good neighbors, good boundaries make good relationships. And this is a little bit about that good neighbor fence that you have with someone, the boundary that needs to be established, and your fears perhaps about speaking up, about saying something, about what someone's going to think of you if you have this good boundary. I think there's a lot of fear about this. I think you need to, if you're establishing a boundary with somebody, wait a minute, what happened here? You need to be thinking about, like, in what spirit are you doing that? So medium-sized boundary too is what we're trying to get at here. Medium-sized boundaries. Okay, well, I hope this deck is working. I hope this deck is functional and not topsy-turvy. Oh, man. I'm going to have to straighten out this deck a minute. Hold on. Boy, one unconscious shuffle and the whole thing goes to pot. Okay, so we'll do a couple more shuffles. Oh, my gosh. I'm on a slatted table, and the cards want to fall through, of course, so. One more shuffle. This is honestly a little ungrounding to be in such a different space, not my space. I don't have heat in my apartment right now, so that's why we're here. All right, from the tarot, we're using the Santa Muerte Tarot deck again. It is Halloween today as I do this, so. Overall, from the bottom of the deck, we have the Empress. This makes me happy for some reason. Obviously, I'm Empress Rose, but it does make me happy. The Empress, the source of life, the mother energy, a renewal energy, a place of comfort. A history of pain, but now in repose here, comfortable. Something has been gone through. There's been pain and suffering in the past, and when it cuts and wounds have occurred. The Empress does not reveal all of her secrets. She's not out here telling everybody everything of how she did everything and what it's all about. But there's this deck in particular has a very like transformation. Like this Empress has been through some stuff, and here she is. She's on the other side, abundant, and I want to say enough. And I think we have the phrase like I am enough or I am enough. I think we have this phrase because we feel inadequate So this has to do with inadequacy. So people can feel very inadequate, we're not enough, we're not doing well enough, we're not doing this. So the phrase I am enough, I think, is supposed to be the opposite in a positive format. So like, I am not inadequate, but we want that in a positive phrasing, right? So then we come up with I am enough, which can be very like confusing and a little bit inadequate as a phrase of what we're really trying to get at and what we're trying to do. So I am enough is what this Empress says. Even after all that I've been through, the losses that I've incurred, especially after some losses, it can be really difficult to view yourself as adequate because you have had losses. So you're not as you don't feel as whole as you once were because you have lost things. You've lost limbs, you've lost there's a tree without limbs here, a stump here. So you've lost things. And so it's hard to reckon with, how am I still whole after these losses? But this Empress is here whole, made whole in some way. The losses are irretrievable, but she is whole. She is adequate, which is a terrible way of saying she is enough, which is a terrible way of saying she is whole. So there's a sense of wholeness, and we're talking about that. We're talking about success after failures, success after losses, a sense of being enough, of having enough after some serious losses. So past, present, inner landscape, what's at issue, environment, to-do list, possible outcome. Oh, possible outcome, one of my favorite cards in this deck. All right, in the recent past, we have 5 of Wands. Passion. In this card, it's very much about passion. And in this deck, in a lot of other decks, it is about conflict, competition, people's passions butting up against each other, sort of. It would be about boundaries. It would be about having passions, establishing boundaries. But it's very passionate, right? We have these 5 matches. There's something incendiary about this. There's something a little bit dangerous about this passion. I want to call it a dangerous passion. Sparks ignited, something's been ignited. An initial spark, and that's interesting because we end with Ace of Wands, which is what I would call the initial spark. But so we have this really, it can be very competitive, it can be very combative, it can be incendiary. In fact, in this card, it almost looks like he's looking at arson. It looks very arsony here, and devilish ideas. But it's just like a lot of passion, and maybe even a reckless passion. Maybe even there's a sense of not knowing quite what to do with this passion. There's something very, it's like such a spark. It's basically bookended. This 5 of Wands is giving me Ace of Wands, honestly. Like this, but there's like some confusion with this 5 of Wands of like, what do I do with this passion? Typically it would represent a competitive environment, argumentativeness, but right here I'm going to read the visual of the card because it overwhelms those other meanings, but they are still possible here. But the visual of the card is that there's a passion, there's a spark, and there might be some confusion about it. It's almost giving me Page of Cups of like, what is this? What have I done? Some sort of like discovery here. And there's a discovery, perhaps some confusion on what is the purpose of this discovery? What is the purpose of this passion? What is the purpose of this? What has been ignited here, and what is its purpose? I don't know, everything has to have an answer to that, but these are sort of questions that may have come up with a recent experimentation or exploration that you've been part of. In your current situation, oh, look at this. Just let's hold on a second. We have 3 major arcana. We have the Empress overall for the reading of being enough, being a creative force, having what it takes to create, to rule, to sit on the throne, having what it takes to be self-possessed and to possess your own life and to build your own life. And then we have the Magician, and then we have Strength, all in very important placements here. So the Magician is the current situation of creation. This is creation. This Magician, oh, that makes me miss my scrying ball here. This Magician has everything you need. You have everything you need. And then we go from the 1 to the 3 here with this Empress. But the Magician has what they need to create something. The parts have been assembled. The final puzzle piece is present. You may not have found it yet, but it is present. You have all the pieces to this puzzle are here. You have everything you need to complete this, to continue to create this. You were wondering if you were capable of creating. We have the Magician here that's telling you, yeah, and you have what it takes. You have everything you need to create this. This may have come as a confusing or surprising spark, but the Magician is here. This could also be someone external to you who's saying, like, who does have what's needed, who does have the magic, the final touch, the magic spark. This person is very inspired. It's almost like this match has lit a boatload of ideas for you. And sort of I would say, it looks like you're lighting up. You're lighting up these matches. This match just lit this whole sombrero of candles. You have a lot of ideas coming out of this. And you didn't know what to do with it at first. You're like, what's this? What's going on here? What have I discovered? And then this is like starting to see the magic in what you've discovered, starting to see the power in what you've discovered, and all the ways in which you can create with what you've discovered. And then in your hopes, your fears, your inner landscape, we have Page of Swords. This is a person, this represents you of learning, and it's page material. It's like, I need to read up all about, what is this? What have I discovered? I'm starting to see these ideas, but I need more information. I need to understand. You want to study something, you want to work on something. It's interesting because Russell, from Rustling Around, his channel, he just did a reading where I'm not sure he pulled this card because he's working from a totally different deck, but this is this card, and I think that it's really interesting. I'm a big fan of his, but we have very different readings and reading styles, so he's not for everybody, but he's pretty magical, actually. I highly recommend. So Page of Swords, you want to learn, you want to understand something, you want to you're trying to learn something, you're trying to figure something out, reading up. This is the student. This could be like going back to school, going to school. This is very student-y, quintessential student vibes. The page right at the beginning, just trying to learn things, not ready to tell or say, but studying. So there's something you want to learn. There's something that you're just a beginner. So the pages always remind me to get into beginner mind, because we can be in our essence any one of the court cards, but the page is the beginner mind of just exploring and trying to learn, trying to figure something out. So maybe you have some sort of ideas, you have what it takes, you want to read up on something. Maybe you're thinking about a student in your life. You're wanting someone to, or you're thinking about a student. This is very intellectual stuff. It's the swords. It's not, it's words, it's reading, it's, it has to do with words. And then we have, what's at issue here is Queen of Wands reverse. Oh, I don't like a Queen of Wands reverse at all. There's a lot of wands here, so that's going to tell me that we might be dealing with some sort of creative or spiritual aspect. The spark, the passion, some sort of passion, whether it's creative passion, it can be sexual passion, it can be spiritual passion. It's the fire, it's the spark within. But the Queen of Wands reversed, gossipy. They're usually pretty introverted, not feeling spiritual, maybe unspiritual, Maybe there's I mean, we have like the three wands here, but we have this very like, this Queen of Wands is not self-possessed. Maybe you're not hearing the calling. It's interesting, this Magician, maybe there are too many ideas with this Magician card. The Queen of Wands reverse can be someone who is very overtly sexual, male or female, definitely using their sexuality, not holding it in a sacred space, but very much, I mean, not that it has to be like always private or anything like that, or I don't know, that did not come out right. It doesn't have to, it's just there's a way to respectfully interact with our sexuality, and a way to use it beyond the sacred connections, right? So this could be something like that. This could just be someone that's just not feeling it. And bookended with this Empress card, it could be, you know, someone who's not feeling enough, who maybe isn't very intuitive, but it just seems like this Queen of Wands is very loud, without really knowing what they're talking about. They're not very in touch with themselves as they're speaking. They're very, there's a, someone who's out of touch with their higher self and is speaking from that place. It could be you. It's all of us sometimes. Or not. Maybe not. Maybe it's somebody else. Could be a gossip. Someone who's gossiping. That's what it kind of feels like to me. Someone who's gossiping. Or maybe it was someone who said something to you when they were ungrounded and unbalanced and not in touch with their higher self, which can be like a chronic state, or it can be a moment that we experience. And maybe this has got you feeling shy and having really big boundaries. These words may have been internalized by you to make sharing something a much bigger deal than it needs to be. I'm almost hearing like a mother energy of, oh no, we don't need to do that. Or no, we don't share that. Or no, we don't talk about that. When in fact, it looks like you do need to talk about something. And maybe meeting it halfway, like even your resistance, you can meet your resistance halfway. You don't have to. What was that song? Was it Pearl Jam? No. Your fears can meet you halfway. Yeah, you can just take some steps towards something that has shut you down. You don't have to go all the way. You can just take some partial baby steps towards something. But this Queen of Wands, I would say, has the potential to shut you down with something that was said. That was not very spiritual. Or it could also be a lack of passion too. Someone who's not very passionate telling you what to do with your passion can also really shut things down. I'm telling you what's possible, what's not possible, all of that. People with no faith love to diss on people with a lot of faith. So not all the time, but you know. Three of Pentacles, a work. This is work related. Usually it's a team, but we do have a team here. We have sun, water, soil, all growing something, and you're a crucial part of that. Somebody is a crucial part of that. But there's a work team here in the environment. So this could be about work. This could be about the team at work. But in your environment, there's some sort of team. There's work that's being done. There's daily work that's being done. There is a project that is being nurtured, and it is growing. You may not be quite aware of this at this point, but you might be. This might be just a whole reading about some sort of work environment. And maybe somebody else is hard at work. But this is the external situation. Things are growing. Things are growing in your environment. And they're definitely taking work in human intervention is what I'm calling work right here. All right, and so your to-do list is strength. So wrestling that dragon to the ground, inner demons, stay strong. This is the don't quit card. Now is not the time to quit. If you're passionate about something, don't quit now. If you are not passionate about something and hate doing it, feel free to quit and find something better. But if you are still passionate about something, if you do love doing something, don't quit. Keep going, staying the course. And this might take all of your strength. This might go on for much longer than you would like it to go on with. I want to say this is a little bit of wrestling these inner demons. When the wild ones come with sticks, this is reminding me of sort of these, right, here's, oh, that's so cool. Here's the wild one. This repetitive, look how many hands they have to repeat and drill this into your head. So this Queen of Wands could be someone who has drilled something into your head. It is not helpful at this point, and it may have shut you down at some crucial point. So, but yeah, look at that, drilling into the head, and then that makes you sad. It's these ideas that were drilled into you at some point by someone, and they make you kind of sad. And this is like, stay strong. Don't give up. Keep fighting this fight. Keep wrestling these inner demons. And maybe even this almost looks like this inner demon right here looks like this inner demon right here to me, right? So keep going. Keep wrestling. Don't quit now. You have a lot of ideas. Keep working with them. Keep wrestling with your fears. Whatever's maybe caused you to have super big boundaries, or even like really thin boundaries as far as really porous boundaries. So staying strong, I think, with perhaps the boundaries that you have already established, and your right to have boundaries, because that when you haven't had boundaries and you establish boundaries, it's pretty intense. And sometimes you need a little bit of help with that because it feels so weird and so foreign. But stick with something. The strength card is basically don't quit, don't give up, keep going. Don't give up on whatever project this is, and dealing with your inner demons that maybe keep you silent and keep you isolated in some way, perhaps even just in a work situation, something like that. Possible outcome here, we have Ace of Wands. Inspiration. Very inspired. So maybe this Queen of Wands is like not feeling inspired. That could be all that she is showing up to say, is that this not inspired. But the Magician is so inspired, and this Queen of Wands is so not inspired. It's really interesting because your current situation has a Magician with a lot of inspiration here. But the issue is someone who's not inspired. Maybe there's someone on the team who's just a wet blanket on everything. Maybe you have some sort of team where someone's just a little bit of a downer on everything. But you have to keep working with them, or you have to keep dealing with them somehow. And there is something very internal about part of that too that you need to keep going with. So Ace of Wands, final outcome, or next situation is going to be inspired. Passionate beginning, inspiration. You're going to figure it out. There's going to be maybe a new creative project, a new idea. There's something new coming in, but don't quit now. Maybe you'll get a new idea. But yeah, keep working with your own energy. Keep working with a new idea is coming, a new opportunity is coming, a new passion is coming. A renewal of some kind. New ideas. All right, well, maybe we don't want to talk about it. Maybe this deck just seems very not interested in saying anything. You know what? Fine, stay in your cave. Don't say anything. All right, we'll move on to these ones. A little prayer from the Wild Kuan Yin. This one flipped over right away. All right. I love these cards. I think they're so beautiful. Uniquely you, the more we are willing to become authentic rather than conventional, the more we'll need to eschew conditioning. The conditioning that I'm seeing here of some kind of lesson or something that was drilled into you at some point in your life. We will need to eschew conditioning in favor of aliveness. And that's what these other ones are talking about, something very alive. Be willing to run the risk of being authentic so that you can live from your heart and experience real joy. I think we're talking about authenticity in this card. And I think we're talking about authenticity in this card. Heading into something you don't know what's going to happen, but being authentically you, sharing, right? And boundaries, we were talking about that too. The authenticity that boundaries allow of when you realize what's yours, what's not yours, what's theirs. Being authentically yourself and separating yourself from other people's expectations, the conditioning, other people's ideas of what you should be or should have been. All of this conditioning, that being authentic and being authentic requires good boundaries. So I hope that was helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me over here. Very much appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon, hopefully back in my warm, cozy apartment whenever that gets fixed. Bye.